Hey, this week on the 167, we're talking about wisdom, worldly wisdom, godly wisdom, and may the fourth be with you. Welcome to the 167. Hey, welcome back to the 167. I'm here with Pastor Rick George and Pastor Jake Reeves. See how quickly I did that this time?
Top of the morning to you.
No time for me to think of anything. Thanks a lot, Pastor Lucas.
How could you not just say top of the muffin to you?
No, I did have a muffin this morning. That's
Really? Yeah, look at that.
That is incredibly fast.
Yeah, this is the type of deep conversation that you're going to get on the 167.
This is the quality programming you get at the 167.
content.
So today we're talking about Hevel. Again, we're talking about Ecclesiastes, which extra points if you can, on the spot right now, spell Ecclesiastes correctly.
I can. I typed it out a lot, but in my head. So Ecclesiastes.
You say it again.
But I can't say it again.
Ecclesiastes.
I can write it out, but to say
No,
it, it's,
no, you have to.
Please use it in
Ecclesiastes, ECC.
yeah, I would not do good in spelling bees because I'm visual. I got to write it out. Then I
love it
can
when they
tell
do
if
that.
it's not
though,
spelled right.
where they're like, use it in a sentence like, I read Ecclesiastes.
Yeah.
It doesn't help you. It's like, hypochondriac.
So
I am a hypochondriac.
So in Bible college, so maybe you had the same experience.
Hold on. You need it like an intro. It's like, story time with Pastor Rick.
Yeah. So in Bible college, I did have one test, and it was the only thing on the test was you had to spell every book of the Bible. That was the test.
What?
And you were great. Our professor was a stickler on spelling the books of the Bible correctly because so many people. So one of our tests was just, there they are. 60,
I guess I get it.
66 blanks. You start filling them out. You got to spell every one of them correctly.
Did you have to use the correct, like, delineation of the book, like the Acts of the Apostles, or did you have to say Acts?
I don't know. I misspelled Acts.
I misspelled
I said
numbers.
AXE.
Oh, man.
That's a way different book, the Acts of the Apostles.
By the way, I'm just kidding. Like, don't cancel me. What? It's not the book of ACTS. It is the book of Acts, like AXE.
It is.
No, it's not.
A sweet fragrance.
Yes. So anyway,
The Acts.
we digress.
Oh, there's so many videos I want to make right now. So anyways, all of this joking that we are doing right now is actually meaningless.
It is. It's Hevel.
And mysterious. So let's segue into Hevel.
Yes.
So we've been talking, this is our second week, talking about it's all smoke, it's all Hevel, it's mysterious, it's meaningless. You know, what do you feel like in life it has meaning? Like, I don't know. Like, so give me a recap of this. So we're in our second week, and we're really talking about
It's the third week.
It is
actually.
technically
It is the third week, isn't
Easter.
it?
Like,
I
know
don't count Easter.
Easter feels like a standalone, but it was, in fact, the opening.
We're in the second chapter. Is that fair?
That's
that would be fair.
That's
We
fair.
did
Okay.
2 weeks in chapter 1, and then we just did chapter 2. So
There you go.
yeah.
So we're still talking about how things are meaningless, and we talked about a number of things this week that were meaningless. Having hundreds of concubines, having
that is meaningless.
Yeah.
having an absorbent amount of alcohol, and singers and partiers and Kelly Clarkson at your birthday party.
Yep. Honestly, most of what we think is of value in this life, it's Hevel. I mean,
Honestly.
if you just break it down and just lay it on the table and say, let's just have an honest conversation about all of these things, that you would ultimately come to the conclusion that, it's kind of meaningless. It just, so a lot of life in the pursuit of life is Hevel. It's fleeting, it's temporary, it is mysterious or hard to understand or explain. It's really hard to explain why we want this so badly. Mm-hmm. And then we get it, and it doesn't do for us what we thought it was going to do. That's hard to explain because we put so much effort into getting there, and then we're there, and it's like, it's not so much. So that's the mysterious. That's the hard to explain part of it. It's that temporary, fleeting feeling of I'm successful, no, I'm a failure.
Well, and even we had our marriage retreat this weekend, so shameless plug for the marriage retreat. But it was really great. But I honestly, like, all the conversations that I was hearing that people were having that were difficult, even the conversations that Chris and I sat down with the discussion questions and talked about, is the hardest questions that we were wrestling with was why. Like if somebody was sitting there going, hey, I'm not very good, like I was talking to a couple and it was like, oh, I'm really verbal affirmation and they're not very verbal affirmation. So, and it's the question of why can't you just say something nice?
Right.
It's like, it's that, why can't you? And it's like, why does that mean so much to you is the big question. And people would sit there and go, I don't know. Like, I have no idea why this has value in my life. And I think that those are questions that are really worth asking, because if you can find the motivation behind those. Yeah.
And so the tension here is it's not that wanting the verbal affirmation is bad. It's not like it's a wrong thing that I feel encouraged. I just feel loved. Like it's important to me. It's not a bad thing. It's not wrong to want a job that provides a decent income for your family. That's not a wrong thing. It's not wrong to want to go on a vacation. It's not wrong to want to buy a car. So it's not a matter of is it right or wrong or good or evil. It's a deeper issue of, okay, so why do you want to go on the vacation so badly? What do you think that's going to provide for you? And for a lot of people, for the vast majority of people, all of the external things are what makes us feel valued. Mm-hmm. It brings meaning to our life. That's what the teacher is saying. That's Hevel. It's temporary. You're missing the point that all those things are going to add some value, but that is not where you find value.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's a huge thing for people as well when they're looking for that is many times, like you said, if somebody has that wrong motivation, it's not going to fulfill that. Like if you're going, I want to go on vacation because I'm tired, or I want to go on vacation to make a memory.
But don't go on a vacation if you're tired and you want to find rest, because you're going to come back and think, nah, man, now I'm more tired than I was before I went on vacation.
Yeah. But those are the things where it's like, people will go, you'll get to the root of it where it's like, well, the neighbors went on a vacation and, like it looks so great. And so it's just like, oh, this is about, you want to live like somebody else.
Yes. So now I have to outdo somebody because if that's what they did and it looked like they had a great time, I want to do that because I want to experience what they experienced, because I want to feel what it looks like they're feeling. That's when it starts to get all.
That is legitimately, I mean, I'm not going after any specific thing, but legitimately one of the aims when you look at any multi-level marketing company, the reason they send people on trips, it's not because, oh, we love you, thank you. They want people taking photos so people on the outside are like, I want that. Yeah. I want that life, Like they get to do that, and it creates that kind of empty, bottomless.
Right. It's the entire influencing culture of Instagram and social media is you want someone's life.
Exactly.
It's like, look at me. And like I said, what's crazy is like, I've read a couple articles on certain like TikTokers or whatever. And it's like a lot of those people have crippling anxiety, never leave their house, but they're in their house making TikToks all day. And they have, thousands of followers, and people are like, I want to be like that person. And it's like, that person does not have one friend in the universe.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. So and again, I think what we're discovering through this book is that there's an illusion. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the grand illusion. It's a song.
See, you hassle us.
See,
come on. Like you also make references that we don't get.
All my 50-plus-year-old people that go back to the 70s
Who
and 80s.
Who made this song?
Let's just keep moving.
Oh man,
is it going to be featured in the new Fast and Furious?
No. Google it.
All right. Am I going to get flagged for
But
it?
yeah, don't Google it right now because we probably don't have internet.
Well, we
connection.
probably don't.
Another topic, but let's keep going. So Hevel,
Yeah.
meaninglessness, temporary, fleeting, grabbing at smoke, those kinds of things. It's like, what I've been wrestling through in my own life is, what are the things that I've placed so much value in that really is just that vapor, that grabbing at something that is just so temporary and fleeting that I shouldn't really even be trying to grab a hold of that. There's something more that I have.
Well, and this week we talked about something that almost feels counterintuitive in that, because we always talk about Solomon was the wisest man in the world. He's so wise. He's, and his wisdom brings him wealth, and it brings him all this. He was probably the most powerful king in the entire history of the world. Jake, I know that you had been reading a book on wisdom. We recently preached on wisdom.
Oh, yeah.
And so I just want to talk about it from that perspective of what are some examples of worldly wisdom? Because we talk about there's godly wisdom and worldly wisdom. What would you say is some examples of worldly wisdom? Because it's different than knowledge. It's more experiential. It's more, je ne sais quoi. Can I say that? No?
You can say it.
Yeah.
I mean,
Can you spell it?
Je ne sais quoi is like literally Hevel. It's
No.
what is it?
Yes,
Yeah.
spell it.
No.
No. Okay.
I'm not
This
French.
isn't a
I don't speak
spelling bee.
Spanish.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So I don't know. What are some examples from your perspective?
No, I just asked
of-
you.
No, I'm flipping the script.
everyone's
What
no. So
worldly wisdom.
you know how like your Instagram algorithms on your Discover page will start to skew, as you sit and watch one video. Well, all of a sudden mine have gone down a really far path in like investing, like these investing videos, dudes on podcasts talking about investing, and all of them they just bash Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
They just bash him. And I'm not saying that Dave Ramsey is perfect but their number one thing is, when you work with money at that level, like it is so much more lucrative for them to be in debt
Right.
and to take that money and go do something with
Yep.
it. But at the same time, like that is so crippling for 99% of
Exactly.
like that's worldly wisdom that's not going to pan out.
So the kind of worldly wisdom has been over the years that if you're taking out a mortgage on your home, you should strive to get a 15-year mortgage rather than a 30-year mortgage. Right? Most people have a 30-year mortgage, and you're paying on it for a long, long time, and all the interest. So conventional wisdom, right, would say, go get a 15-year mortgage, pay it off more quickly, and that's what Trudy and I have tried to do. We tried to get a 15-year mortgage and maximize that. But like you said, I was reading an article recently that said, forget that 15-year mortgage. See, because interest rates are so low, you can get that 30-year mortgage, take the money that you would be spending on your monthly payment, invest that in something that you're going to make more than 4 or 5% interest, and now you're making money on the money that you would have been spending. And look, that's conventional wisdom, right? It's wisdom that says, oh, do this and don't do that, and you're going to be successful. And the problem with conventional wisdom is you have one idea of wisdom from a conventional standpoint. You have another, and you're both convinced that it's right. That's different than godly wisdom because it's wisdom that's coming from God, from above, not just from someone's opinion. So there's a vast difference between just the wisdom of this world that anybody can come up with and godly wisdom that comes, like we read, that comes down from above, from heaven.
I think that temporary piece is key in that because, like, even today, you see how news cycles change so quickly, and what yesterday everybody was like, this is definitely what was happening.
Yeah.
And then like some weird piece of data comes out and they're like, this is definitely what is happening. I'm like, well, wait a minute, 5 seconds ago, you said that this is what was happening.
Yeah, so conventional wisdom is very definitely dependent upon the times, circumstances. It's all, it's in flux all the time. Godly wisdom is more timeless. You can kind of bank on godly wisdom. Conventional wisdom, it might have been true today, but tomorrow we're flipping it. It's no longer true. This is what you need to be doing.
I think that you will, resonate with this because I feel like it's a millennial trend.
Sure.
So you be with me on this.
Yeah.
I'm like halfway between millennial and Gen X.
I'm smack dab in the center, so drop it on me.
But like millennials right now are super discontent about college education. Like we were kind of like, we grew up in high school and it was like, you are worthless if you don't go to college. Like
Right.
everybody has to go to college. We're going to make it so everybody goes to, and now you have all these millennials that all they're doing is complaining about the crippling college debt that they are in.
No, that's, yeah.
And so it's like, that was the conventional wisdom at the time was you have to go to college. And like now there's this resurgence of like, are you kidding? I can make six figures as an electrician.
I just was reading an article recently that said, especially with Gen Z and Alpha coming up, they are just not interested in higher education, and it's that's not necessarily a good or bad thing. I'm not going to pretend to know that as a pastor,
Right.
but where definitely millennials were still pushed. Go to college. I don't care if you don't have a reason why you're going.
Yeah,
go to college. Now it's like maybe go work.
Okay, you want me to bring this full circle?
Ooh,
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
So conventional wisdom has always said you have to be a good speller or you're going to look dumb, right? So you have to invest a lot of energy in spelling because you want to appear like you're intelligent. Well, now you don't have to spell because you have spell check, right? And so you don't have to be great at math, right? You have your phone. It'll like do it all. So what was once this conventional wisdom that this is imperative, you have to have this or you're going to be a failure. And now it's like, well, not really. Like, I don't have to be a great speller. I don't have to be able to spell Ecclesiastes because all I have to know is it starts with E, C, and it's going to fill it in for me. Right?
Right.
It's right there.
Have you ever spelled something so like on my phone though? Sometimes I spell something so badly the phone's like I don't even.
No,
I don't know.
That's
Like,
happened a lot.
Yeah, you're an idiot.
It's like I'm starting it with the wrong letter.
Yeah, Siri starts talking to you without you asking the question. They're like,
But that was the notorious thing was in math class they'd always be like, nobody's gonna carry around a
Right.
calculator in your pocket. And be like,
right. So conventional wisdom once said you have to go to
science.
college. Now conventional wisdom says, well, go to trade school or just jump into a trade, find something that you love, and save the $150,000, $200,000 of college.
watch a
and-
YouTube video.
That is, I know we have given this advice multiple times to people when they come to us on like, I want to go into ministry. And like, I love Bible college. I love all that. And like, if you feel called to, I still wouldn't talk you out of it.
Right.
But you will immeasurably get more going to, if you want to go to like if you need the degree, go to a community college. And whether it's, if it's worship, go take piano lessons and, serve
Music
like,
theory.
Go deep in your church and take on what you should be getting paid for, but you're not going to, and you're going to learn more than you would at school. But people don't want to do that
No.
because they want a degree.
Yeah,
They
so
want a degree.
conventional wisdom says you got to have the piece of paper. That makes you more qualified. When today, like you learn a lot more by doing than you do by sitting in a room. And so again, but if you talk to professors, they're going to tell you something a little bit different. You're going to talk to people from the institutions. So again, conventional wisdom, it's going to be kind of this flux. It's going to move. Godly wisdom, a little more stable, right?
It seems like it's dependent on time. It's dependent on geolocation. What's considered wise in one country is not even regional.
Sure. Yeah.
There's so many, like you said, so many factors in it. Where do you think that you see overlap? Like because like I don't want to just say like your grandpa comes out and he's like you should save your money and you're like grandpa that's worldly wisdom. Like where do you see overlap in our culture still where the cultural wisdom. And we'll even say like regionally, we're in Kansas, it's America. Like where do you see that the world is still kind of lined up with biblical wisdom?
Yeah, so I think in general, the wisdom of the world would be like treat people well.
Yeah,
and even people who don't understand the Bible will say, what's that? The golden rule.
Sure. Yeah.
Which that's godly wisdom as well. You treat people well, like honor them. So there's some overlap there. It's not like when the world says be nice to people, it's like that's stupid. It's like no. A lot of what the world has adopted is godly wisdom. They just don't know it's godly wisdom, and it's been changed a little bit to fit a culture.
Yeah.
And I think even, as we're, well, I don't know, I know we were bashing on higher education or whatever, but I think I still think there's godly wisdom in learning. I still think there's something that we're not called to enter into the faith and turn our brain off and be like, oh, I did it.
Yeah, study to show yourself approved. So the learning process is important.
And so do I think the entire, everything there is no, but I think there is the seed, the nugget, the kernel is very good, that you should never be content in ignorance. You should push yourself to learn and to I don't know.
Yeah, I think there's overlap. Like I said, it's really funny. I think a lot of the things that we teach our children, there's overlap in this morality and godly wisdom. And I think at least I think there's a surging trend is, I think you're seeing polarization sometimes in our region and in America, but I think there's this trend also of like, I need to know that it's true for myself. I'm not just going to take your word for it. And I think, like kind of that biblical wisdom of like, hey, I'm not going to follow Paul. I'm not going to follow Apollos. I'm going to follow Jesus.
Yeah.
We kind of have that same thing in Christianity where it's like, no, you need to read the Bible. Like, don't take, like, I feel like we're pretty good about saying this, like when we get up and speak, we're like, don't just take my word for it. Right. I want you to go figure it out for yourself. And I think that rings true in society where it's like, hey, listen, this is what worked for us. It may not work for you. You need to figure out what works for you and work that system.
And I think what we're seeing in the book of Ecclesiastes is the teacher. Mm-hmm. And again, there's even debate on, is this really Solomon or could it be someone else? Because it doesn't specifically state, I'm Solomon writing this. It just says the teacher.
Dear
King David's son. Well, could be any of his sons. So, but traditionally it's been believed that this is Solomon, right? So Solomon was a very wise person. And in his wisdom, God blessed him with a lot of things. But then his mind starts to shift because he has all of these resources and he starts to slip and maybe vacillate between godly wisdom, conventional wisdom, so he's kind of back and forth and he's like, well, I've got all this, therefore I should feel a certain way because that's what, I've been told, or that's what the experience has been. And then now I'm not feeling it. And so then he starts going on this journey and down a black hole, even though he has a lot of godly wisdom that he's lived his life by. He's in this place where he's back and forth, kind of trying to explore the conventional wisdom as well as living in godly wisdom. And we're hearing a lot of the tension of that struggle.
Well, yeah, and I think the crazy part about this, and I wanted to close by asking you guys about verse 17, so I'm going to read it for you in a second. But I think, like you said, talking about how he's going on a journey, I think some of the irony of this, but also some of, like you said, worldly versus godly wisdom is, intelligence is something that you learn, and wisdom is things that you have learned through experience. Mm-hmm. And so, it's one thing where we go, Solomon is the most wise person in the world. But what he does is he seeks it through experiencing himself. It's the equivalent of when people are like, how do you know you don't like drugs? Have you ever tried them? And it's like, well, no, I can't definitively say that cocaine is bad for me because I haven't snorted it. It's like, and it's like, that's, we would look at that and go, that is terrible wisdom. But the thing is, it's like, you either get it, like you said, so godly wisdom is something that is from God's experience of the world, that he has been around since the beginning of time and is trying to tell us. This is something that has stood the test of time, versus a lot of times we try and get our own wisdom because let's see if I get 600 concubines, what will happen? Let's see, if I drink every, alcohol in the world, like what do you think is going to happen? And it's like, most people be like, you're going to become an alcoholic,
right.
But it's like, but people want to experience it for themselves, so they can't just take your word for it. And I think that's the thing about godly wisdom is he's saying, if you just took godly wisdom, you wouldn't have to ruin your life to gain that experience. Yeah. But in verse 17, he says this, because he's talking about the wisdom that comes from heaven, this thing that we're talking about, timeless wisdom. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first of all pure, then peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere. So he's describing that wisdom. And so, I think that a lot of times, like when we are taking wisdom from heaven, like a lot of times it's easier for us to gravitate towards one way or harder for us to gravitate towards the other. What do you guys think is on that list, for you to recognize the wisdom? What do you think is probably the easiest for you, and what's the most difficult?
So, that passage isn't coming from Solomon. Okay,
Right.
That's a New Testament.
It's James 3, I'm sorry.
So it's in James. So James is saying about this wisdom that comes down from above, and it kind of describes it. So at various times in my life, I have wrestled with every one of those things when it comes to wisdom, because there are times when I want to pursue something and it really doesn't fall in line with being sincere. It's like, no, it's really kind of self-centered, but I don't want everybody to know that. And so I think seeing that list just is a reminder to me that every area of my life has to be in submission to Christ, because every one of those areas are areas that I personally struggle with at various times. And it reminds me that I'm no different than Solomon, in that I vacillate back and forth as well. Like, there are days that I'm walking in godly wisdom, and there are days that it's just worldly wisdom. I'm just, I'm trying to make sense of whatever I'm going through, and I read this article and I saw this person and I heard this works, and so let's try it.
Yeah.
Instead of, seeking God and seeing how it lines up with that wisdom that comes from above. So does that answer your question at all?
So all of them and none of them. I'm just kidding.
That's the pastoral answer of yes, exactly.
Like, just looking at this, I think I guess I'll start. I mean, my natural bend anyway is, whether you call it an empath or whatever, empathetic. Okay. And I would say considerate is an easy one for me, because I'm typically overly thinking what other people are, but submission is probably the one that's hard for me. Just to be in that place consistently, to always be ready to lay aside your own stuff for what.
Well, I think those two things go together, where it's like you're easy to relate to somebody else and empathize with them, but that makes it hard to be impartial in those moments.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were looking for a specific, for me, this is terrible as a pastor. So mercy, so sometimes I'm not very merciful. Like I can be easily irritated, right?
Sure.
So you meet with someone, you hear their story. I'm full of mercy, and then they come back, and you're like, seriously,
You're still doing it.
yeah, you're still, and so that wisdom sometimes, having the mercy side of wisdom is where I fall a little short.
To not give them their free T-shirt on the second visit that just says "Stop it."
Yeah.
Yep.
Exactly.
Well, I think that goes to I would say impartial as well, because it's that second or third thing where I'm like, the first time I like, it's that hard piece where, like, I want to give you this wisdom, and I don't, like, if you're my friend, I don't want to hurt your feeling. And if you're not my friend, I'm like, here's this wisdom, like, it's hard to give it to everybody with love and impartial.
Yeah. So let me wrap up real quick. Last parting thought. So you have godly wisdom that says it is full of mercy. Conventional wisdom says you didn't do what I told you to do, so it's on you now.
That's
right?
true.
Just go do what you want to do. That's where those two come in tension with each other. Godly wisdom says, no, you just keep being merciful towards them and point them. And that conventional wisdom says, they didn't listen. Cut them loose. Like, let them learn by themselves.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Join us next week when we continue talking about wisdom and Hevel and Ecclesiastes, and we actually learn how to spell Ecclesiastes. We'll see you next time on the 167. If you enjoyed this episode of the 167, make sure you like, subscribe, follow, get notified, leave a 5-star rating and a positive review. Tell all your friends to listen as well. Make sure you go over to newlifegardener.com and check out all that we have to offer as a church, and check out our messages online as well. Thanks for listening.